Jamie Given is a therapist, speaker, and passionate advocate for mental health and faith based growth. As a wife and mother of three, she blends her professional experience with her personal journey of navigating postpartum depression and anxiety. Through her story, Jamie offers meaningful insights into finding strength, healing, and hope by leaning into faith and surrendering to the Lord through life's challenges. Today, Jamie is sharing the strength and surrender, rebuilding through faith. Jamie, welcome to the BRI Talks stage.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here today to really talk about my journey through postpartum depression and anxiety. It's a tough one, but it's something that does need to be shared. So, when you hear the word blueprint, what comes to mind for you? Perhaps it's a carefully designed plan with lines and measurements that are correct, forming a foundation for something that is strong and lasting. But what happens when the blueprint is flawed, where the lines are diagonal or the measurements are off? When we know that the foundation we're trying to build upon isn't strong, isn't going to last. This is how I felt when I became a mother. Like I was working from a blueprint that was flawed. I had plans to be the perfect wife, perfect mother, wonderful professional that was successful and have the balance of all of it. I thought that if I worked hard enough, I could control every aspect of my life and avoid as many failures as possible. What I didn't realize, though, was that control was not my superpower. If anything, it was my greatest weakness. It kept me from leaning into God's plan and kept me trapped in a cycle of guilt, shame, despair, and self reliance. Today, I want to share with you my journey through postpartum depression and anxiety and how it revealed God's blueprint for my life and how surrendering to his plan gave me the strength that I never knew I had. It's amazing what God can do. My need for control defined a lot of my life. And as a marriage and family therapist, I spent my career helping others, helping couples, helping families navigate their challenges. Yet I struggled to apply these same lessons to my own life. I planned every detail I possibly could. I even planned the scheduling and timeline of when I had my three children in 2018, 2020, and 2022. I was so fixated on managing every aspect that I didn't realize how much control I lacked over my own emotions, over my own mental health, and over my relationship with God. I even convinced myself sometimes that this was God's plan because he allowed it to happen, that because I was able to plan the birth of my children in the timeline that I wanted, it was his plan. But that was not right. The arrival of my first daughter in 2018 brought an unexpected visitor, postpartum depression, also known as PPD. I dismiss these challenges of adjusting to motherhood as the typical symptoms. It's hard, it's a new thing. And I didn't fit the well-known stigma symptoms of wanting to hurt myself or my daughter. I did have a couple thoughts of, sending a few punches towards my husband, not necessarily healthy, but never acted upon them. And again, just equated it to the typical adjustments to motherhood, learning something new. And with this, I didn't know who I was. I was sad. I was lonely. I was depressed. I was in denial as well. It was a version of myself that I did not recognize. So I decided to learn more about my symptoms, and I dove into research and trainings. Being a therapist, I wanted to know more about myself and also possible clients that I could help. So in 2018, I learned that 1 in 7 mothers are diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety within the first 2 years of having a child. And I was floored by that number. I thought it was significant. And with all these trainings, I was able to learn a little bit more about myself, how to cope in a more effective way, and really what I could do to move forward. So again, I went on with the controlled sense of my timeline of I wanted another child. I wanted to continue to grow our family. So I trudged through some of that postpartum depression, and 22 months later, welcomed our second daughter. And again, this postpartum journey introduced another unwelcome visitor. This time, it was postpartum anxiety, which I initially thought was different than postpartum depression, or that they were associated, not completely separate. And it was hard. It was hard to realize again that I was going to have this again and in a different form. 6 weeks into having my sweet baby girl, my second child, and starting to mentally prepare for my return back to work, the world shut down. My anxiety soared and crippled me, making me feel paralyzed in my own home, let alone not being actually allowed to leave my home because of the global pandemic in 2020. I was at home with 2 young children, fearful of being exposed to COVID, wondering what would happen, how this would affect my family, being isolated. And my loving husband was working the front lines as a first responder and being exposed every single day. He came home every day and limited his time with us because he was fearful that he may pass COVID to us or that it was unsafe because he was out there every day. So this furthered my isolation and my sadness and my anxiety and all of the fears that came with typical COVID symptoms, let alone I had a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old that I was taking care of without my support system, without the additional help, without my community, as we were all lost and unsure of what to do. My mind was constantly on alert, imagining worst case scenarios, questioning my worth as a mother, and feeling disconnected from the life I'd always dreamt of building. I was fearful of everything. And after enduring almost 2 years of pandemic issues and challenges and so much more, I still wanted to go with my idea of my family of 3 children. I knew now that my husband could at least be in the delivery room, which was such a surprising thing that spouses and partners are not allowed in the delivery room during the pandemic season of 2 years. That was significant. So I did more research. I did more on my mental health and my self-care. And you know what? I was like, I can do this. I can do a 3rd child. I will have it different this time. And I'm so excited. I was motivated to do something different with all the research and knowledge that I knew and all the experience that I had. And when my third postpartum experience came around, it truly brought me to my breaking point. Although I thought I was doing well, because my postpartum depression really didn't set in until my baby was about 8 months old. It was the longest and most severe postpartum depression season of my life and the deepest depression I had ever actually been in, getting worse and worse after each month and lasting for about a year. The overwhelming need to escape took over. Thoughts that I had never faced before, fantasies of accidental injury or somehow disappearing, meeting my Lord just face to face and wanting to end it all. It just felt crippling, and I wanted to find the relief of it all. However, these thoughts absolutely terrified me, and I was fully aware of them. Being a therapist, I know I was in a deep state of depression, and I was trying everything I have told my clients. I was going to therapy myself. I was doing it all, and I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't save myself, is what it felt like. I had reached a place where I've never been comfortable, never knew was possible, and didn't think was actually an option for me or that I would ever be here. In desperation, I went into research. Again, I retook the same course that I did in 2018 with my first daughter about postpartum depression and anxiety. And just in the time of 5 years, that number of 1 in 7 mothers went to 1 in 5 mothers are diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety now. And that it just floors me of how much mental health need we have for our new mothers and families, that we need to support them. We need to create education and more resources. It was rough, but understanding the research helped me understand myself. I also turned to an antidepressant medication, hoping it would pull me from the depths of this despair. The side effects left me feeling numb, and I knew this wasn't the path that I wanted. So I was determined to reclaim my life in some other way. Yet every step forward felt futile. And I constantly questioned how I could help others when I felt like I was drowning myself. I continued to work. I continued to specialize in perinatal mental health and helping other mothers and couples. And I loved it. I loved that I could make an impact on their life. But I felt like I couldn't do anything about my own. My professional identity as a therapist and my personal identity as a mother felt at odds, compounding my guilt and fueling my despair. It was only in my true surrender and lifting my hands in the brokenness and asking God for forgiveness and strength and grace and guidance that I began to heal. That letting go of my control that I had clung onto for so long, that I had finally opened my heart to God and his power and his peace and forgiveness and so much more. That surrender was finally my turning point, the beginning of the transformation I didn't imagine was actually possible. And through the surrender, I began to see my struggles as part of a larger purpose and not just a period of pain. I could finally accept the blessings of motherhood and the talent that God had given me and the purpose that I had to give to others. These gifts that he has provided for me meant even more as I found more healing through faith. My healing began when I surrendered. And when I reflected on my blueprint that I had always followed, which was a rigid plan built on control and perfection based on my history and upbringing and so much more, I recognized that it was not in alignment with what God's vision was for my life. I realized that I needed to dismantle all of the walls of fear and self-reliance and allow him to guide me in rebuilding that foundation. Through the surrender, it was not easy. Each week, I went to therapy, I forced myself to church, and I begged for God to help me to do something different. The passage, Philippians 4:6-7, became a lifeline for me. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all that he has done. When I initially heard this verse, I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I just need to pray for what I need. And I was asking God to fix things, but I only asked him to fix what was in my control. I also didn't express any gratitude. I wasn't grateful for the things that he had given me or seen the things that meant so much. In weekly therapy, mindset coaching, and support from my very loving husband, I slowly began to heal. My Christian therapist connected my struggles of faith through biblical references, helping me find purpose in my pain. In one session, he read the full book of Proverbs 31, describing a woman of strength, dignity, and worth beyond rubies. And he said to me, "This is you." And that it hit home, and I didn't believe it. I felt broken and far from this vision of this wonderful woman and mother that was worth far more than rubies. But it was my Christian therapist that helped me see some of this light and how I did emulate that woman. And I do emulate that woman. Over time, I found more and more glimpses of myself in that passage. Therapy offered a safe space for me to process my pain and rediscover my worth and as God's beloved daughter. Week by week, I allowed him to fill the cracks of my soul. I came to see that my ambition and my drive to help others and therapy and programs and so much more and being a mother was not burdensome whatsoever. It was my purpose, and that all of my struggles were for my path to help others find healing and hope. So I bring us back to this blueprint. Each of us inherits a blueprint with patterns and plans from our past, from our family, from so much more. Some of them are beautifully architect. Some of them are broken. Some of them are formed in ways that do not need renovation. And some need significant renovation. Some need some walls blown out and changed. And there is good news with those renovations. With God's guidance, we can renovate toward that beautiful picture and image that he wants for us. We can tear down the walls of fear and perfectionism. We can rebuild with grace and love and create a foundation that reflects the lives that he sees for us. Renovations, though, require effort and vision. The tools we use in his renovation are God's word, prayer, and the support of others. It's the surrender. It's the openness of hearing God's word. Proverbs 31 became a guiding framework for me, reminding me that I am capable of strength and dignity. Also, Philippians 4:6-7, it was like a hammer driving the nails of surrender. Give him your worries. Do not fear. Allow him. Have faith. These were cornerstones of rebuilding my foundation in God's care. My own blueprint initially was flawed by many generational wounds, experiences, a need for control, a need for perfectionism, and a significant misunderstanding of my purpose. But surrendering to the Lord allowed me to co-create a new design, one built on resilience, hope, and faith, one built on the rock that He meant for us to build upon. So, with my journey through healing and transformation, it didn't just bring peace to my heart and love for everything that I have, but it also ignited a calling within me to create tools to help others navigate their own life transitions. These struggles I faced and the lessons I learned, both personally and professionally, inspired me to develop programs rooted in faith, research, and real life experiences. Out of this calling became Preparing Relationships, a comprehensive approach to help couples strengthen their bonds as they step into new chapters of life. Whether you're preparing for marriage through our marriage prep course or navigating the early stages of parenthood in our course called Preparing Relationships for Early Parenting, these programs provide guidance and tools needed to help families, couples, individuals thrive during life's pivotal moments. I created these resources within my therapy practice to walk alongside others, offering wisdom gained through my own journey and insights drawn from years of working with clients. You can explore more at our website called preparingrelationships.com. And as a thank you for stepping into this journey with me and hearing our words, I want you to use the code RISE, RISE, and receive 50% off your course enrollment today. This will be valid for 30 days. Healing and growth are very possible, and you don't have to walk the road alone. Let these programs be a part of your transformation and creation of a new blueprint for yourself and your family. Seek therapy with a person that may support you in your faith and grow immensely from these conversations. Thank you so much.